So today we went down here, stopped at Turangi, and then came down here, and we stopped at Tukanu, and then we went to Kuratau in Omori, and
there, Kuratau's there.
But before there, we stopped up on the hill, and that's where we could look at about here. Could look right across the delta where the Waitanui Pa was, and as I say, that was as big and significant as the one that was up here in this bay. But who knows about that, because artists and that have paid them much to do with the ones here. And that was a big significant pa. Wow, but we had them up here. No one's got any record or knowledge or anything of those.
Of the palisades.
But I've got 400 metres of great bracing posts and that. So there was the equal of anything of the Great Waitanui Pa down here. But from here we went to Pukawa, and we ended up down here at the beach, the gum tree at the beach, and where the old river course was. Along here, the old river where it came round and out, and that's when we had those big pit features. So when we say about these places being at the riverbank, we were at the riverbank. I mean, 100 to 200 years ago. But and that's the trick with maps and identifying and reading and making sense of these places. But here next time.
Tēnā koutou e te whānau whānui, nau mai hoki mai ki Taupo Moana Record Keepers. It's, I think, the 25th of March 2022. We're at a lookout overlooking Lake Taupo. Ko Jeffrey Addison tēnei me aku hoa rakatira ko te Whaitaima TeWhare, rawa ko Perry Fletcher. So over to you, Perry, to talk about today's rock art or cultural adventure.
Everywhere being the strategic place it is, we stopped at random. At the moment we're above Waihi and on very unstable ground area that caused a 1847 massive landslip. And behind us over at the lake is the Great Delta, where the famed Waitahanui Pa, Palisade Pa once stood, only rival to the one that we went to the other day, 400 metres of stockade and palisade posts of a similar arrangement that stood up the other end of the lake, but no artists of that to ever record it. And we can also see it in the bay way down below toward Tikanu, the wharf, the restored wharf, and the boat ramp that form part of the mail route. So it's see the line down there, long jetty going out, and so that connected from the 1890s the mail route that came to Tukanu from Taupo. And other landmarks is you've got Motuapa there, the island and the lake. And so we're at the literally at the southern end of Lake Taupo, where we are, and from there we're going to a couple of places, and our first stopover will be at Omori down by the lake, and just past Pukawa, where the original mission station came for the Anglican mission, about 1856. So this is where we're going. Bring back the birds. Now on the South Island, the chap's got 2 cats and he's registered them as predatory catchers. They'll catch 3-4 rabbits a day each.
Gee, that'd keep them fed.
Well, that's right. see all these little hidden gems we have? I think all what's used to going these little side things.
Get a lead, I don't know what I'm looking for.
One of the things is, by all streams and that, in spite of the lake, the Maori favoured living by streams and stream edge and outlets, in spite of having all the fresh water at their feet. And it was one of the things, as soon as you had any rising land, you often find remains of old Maori activity, cultural activity. We've got traces here just on the rising land at this side, but go into thick and gloom, a rising land. And when you suddenly get a change in the topography of the land, that's why often a place like round the lake, Maori made use to any practical use they could of the higher ground and where they camped or could stay. And we go up here. Hello. One of the things is you don't need to go replanting natives on land that has been burnt off or cleared. They after 4 or 5 years they self-regenerate, they self-sown, and
this is a good check theory. This is a good trick because how people have been maintaining it.
Yes, that's why I just note to them it's good to see that the public are still making good use of these things. That's why I wanted to, for Kawa Bay and that, and access it owners and everybody could enjoy.
Yeah, we've never been there. Kawa Bay. I didn't think you could get to it.
Well, you can't. The only tracks and access of dockland is the ones I've supervised.
Well, you can by boat.
Well, yeah, anywhere by boat.
Exactly. We just have to remember that that's what we can do to get to these lands that...
See, still traps being used, set.
Now it feels like we're walking right through some piece of modified, or is this just a natural mound, do you think? Feels like a bit of a fort to me.
We'll let Whaitaima get her impression.
To me that says something is going along here.
Oh,
what is this that goes down here? I'm highly suspicious of this being an area that has been modified for whatever reasons. I don't know.
Well, what does it look like?
It looks like a ditch fort, you know, like a palace.
Now, seeing I haven't got the measuring tape that's in the car, it is exactly 82 metres long. If you doubt me, you can come back with a tape.
So what makes you so sure of that?
Because I've measured it.
Right. And when you say it, what do you call it?
I'll wait for the bikes. Bike has it.
Hiya. So what is this feature exactly that we're on?
Well, I'll read from my book of words. The book of words, like everything else, are my own. So if you want to believe everything in print, it's And here I'll just conclude or begin here.
Is this a story that I could tell?
No, this is
whakapapa.
this is no, it's not a whakapapa. It's a story. Southern Bay, Omori and Pukawa. And here, this is a ditch 82 metres by 2 metres or so wide, and it's consistently go from the drop off there right through 82 metres across and to stop at the other side.
So is this representing the outskirts of a pa site, or like a fort, pa fort?
My site recording expert and saw himself as #1 in staff of Historic Places Trust. I only relied, like they did with much of the Waikato, on aerial photography. And so, ignoring anything I was doing that didn't come up on aerial photography, this was defined in the aerial photos, a well-defined ditch. So he promptly recorded as a ditch, a fortified ditch for a power site, and recorded it as such. And that was quite a few years ago, might even be in the late 1970s. And here, what I've written about it was that it was in fact, look, I'll try and get the right words. Omori Road here, House Point Camp, and Cord Lovins and Omori, recorded site indicated, walking track. And this track was actually constructed about 1930. 1930? Not 1830, 1930. But the official record done by the aerial, it's a par side ditch, who recorded 1970. This was the background prop for the film, one or two Maori films they did in the 1930s. One was Riri's Last Stand, and I've been to location sites by the Rotorua Lakes for that. But this one was done and purposely dug for a cast of hundreds for the film Hey Tiki. So if you look in the archival thing where there's a photo, a postage to get a poster frontage, part of this doco, this was the stage set for the film and the attacks on that in the old time Maori fighting, and the film set Hey Tiki. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Who knows?
You do.
Yes, but so here's another walk. To ask the locals if they're lucky to even bothered walking the track. So these little jams with all their little stories all around the district. And these sort of things can appear in other people's regional stories and histories as well.
So without signage, you'd never know unless you were trained and looking for such features. You'd never know walking through here.
Well, you walk right past with
yeah.
your dog and your bike and...
Yes. So nothing really much can be done about that unless you want to put a signpost saying this is the old ditch pa.
Well, the reports and that have gone to the council, to their PR people, their tourism people and everything else. They sit on a 33-page report of mine that includes all this. So, not all ignorance, we don't know.
Yeah, it's more like it's not worthwhile, it's not worthwhile, it's not worthwhile.
And if you're a history movie fan, particularly old Maori films, it's most important, a location site, and the effort that remains have done that they put into it back in people's grandparents' times and that, and I've been part actors for it.
Is this the only feature you wanted to show us, or is there further
Yes.
down the
No,
track?
you go a little way down, opens all out grass frontages and reserves for the houses and that.
Okay.
But I thought I'd show you that.
Well, I'm glad I was able to spot it. It shows that your years of training me have not been completely wasted.
I tell you, keep this up, Jeffrey, and your hair will start going grey.
Oh, I'd love it to, because that would mean it would be growing back. If I had hair to go grey, I'd be quite happy with that.
You can have a run down if you like, but it's a good.
I may as well just see how far it goes along this way, just to see if see where the ditch.
You didn't mean that way, did you? You meant that way.
Oh, this way looks more interesting.
It's all grass and
There's more things to duck
houses
under.
and paddocks.
Te tiro mai e hoa maa. Look at this, the level of this. Nothing natural about this. This has been made by our tupuna, no more.
What are we standing on? Grass.
Yes.
Grass and sand.
Yes.
We're looking at places of significance. What is here?
Nothing apparent
No.
to me.
So what I've got to do here is not what is here, but what is over there. Over the fence.
So is this a whare site here?
This here is one of 2, 3 big forest sites, and where we are here, see that's cultural, the stone, deposited stone off the side, the edge there. But what we are with 2, 3 forest sites, big ones side by side, we're above the old river edge. So when people say, oh, our tupuna and that, they were at the edge of the river for 100 to 200 years, things, courses and that can change, and this can throw so many people out. I'm not sure whether that's my tape or not behind you, but I marked out 2 or 3 places. So this here, they've now got an improvised thing, but the Maori had this one time for subdivision, and so it's little features like this were to be noted and advised and that, but full reports and that. So this, since my visit's now been modified by trackway, but if we go past, I don't think there's another one over there, Jeffrey. We're in between two or three of them.
I'll have a little look, eh?
Just to have a look. No more than about 20 metres or so apart, but these are the physical evidence of some of the old places and occupation. And we say, but where's the water? But this was actually by the water, on the banks of the original Kuratau stream. The Kuratau river went past. Nothing there, Jeffrey.
Can't see anything up there. I'm just going to look this way.
I think we're at the edge here, and so when I blunder through these places, it's not to get a sense of hit and miss. I'm usually quite accurate in my navigational recall of where they are, and plotted out, they'd be quite sensible. You know, when you met them, that's the bank, the lake rise, and probably a bit of cultivation and the soils and that behind us. So I'll have a look, just have a look over here, and then find the other 2. We've got a better view here, coming across. There's another one. So quite big, another big one. See perspective you got with Jeffrey standing over there. And the bigger ones like this, they all form, almost conform to a certain measurement.
Yeah, the one at Whaitaiwaka was pretty much the same.
The same.
10 metres.
So they start with whatever their state, whether it's farm paddocks or places like this, second growth, they start conforming to a certain given area of measurement. So what do you think when I say, oh, it's by the old river edge? Send the archaeologists, historians and those in, and they're running up and down all day looking at the river edge. The Perry must be wrong.
So the old river edge is along.
The old river edge is just along front, and you get the water gravel exposed off the banks here.
Yeah, well, that would give you quite a comfortable little. Once you'd roofed this over, that's quite a big dwelling. 10 metres square.
This might eventually come into subdivision, but as I say, like Parawira, okay, you've got 100 hectares or something, and let's just get this excluded. It could be still a feature, a sort of a frontage reserve, your own reserve grass frontage area. It's part of the remains of the old places. Was there another one over there? I don't recall. I recall these two big ones. Might have a GPS somewhere, but oh, that'd be right. Good. Oh, that might be just a. So this is a bank, the bend of the bank, and then you've got definitely two of those. And not necessarily pits, but what's been overgrown or blurred in that, what you've got is the most obvious. There could be a wider area of activity around it. In some of the other forest sites, there's no trace left, depending on how they were constructed, or pits. They may not have even had or the need for pits. So what do you think? This is just an example of what, by tracing of former rivers going back into the past, that have activity there, not necessarily the present one. So it can displace a site and a tradition or a place name by a physical alteration of the landscape.
So I wonder if down at the end of Whaitaiwaka there are those similar places, you know, where the river used to run out, where there will be ancient settlements there of the old riverside.
Well, the raising of the lake has, but that big pit there at Whareawaka, it was a one-off. But then these two are one-offs. But it belies a range of activity and use in that over generations, whether it's temporary camps or fisheries or
That side is marked on council back. I've done that out from David Ramaka. It's got a site number and
and if it gives me a site number, I'll say why it was done, who did it, and everything else. So it's
It's N slash something, and it reminded me of the way that you
do the
on
N
maps.
slashes.
Like N
That would be probably N/94-8.
94.
Was it -8?
94, that's all I remember.
It might be -8. So I retain all this in my head. But
anyway, at least it's on a record, but it's not marked, and not they know about it, but nobody else does.
well, that's great for the tractor or the machine or the tractor. As I say, when they diverted that road, there was nothing on their maps to say anything for anyone to do that upgrade they did with all that track work and that.
Yeah, I've been sent that report, that track survey report. That's the only thing
Did
I
you
have.
see the author was Richard somebody, wasn't it?
That's the only record they have of anything that's taken place at Whareawaka. No history.
Which is unrelated to physical things like this.
Yes.
Yes, that's my concern. Yes. Hence, as I say, from council to university, and that, I was approached many years ago to at least meet with councillors once a month, just give an hour or two briefing on the cultural historic awareness they did in their planning departments and that. But and they wanted me to meet once a month, but that never really carried out. So I have had approaches over many years for the self-same thing. Okay, we know which way we're heading. We've got the sun behind our backs and reserve over here and another fair fence to crawl through.
That way, out,
Yes.
we can walk.
Yes,
Bikers came out.
yes.
But we don't get that sense of blundering through the bush.
Blundering.
Well, not blundering, but, you know, it's one thing to follow a path and another thing just to create your own as you're walking.
Sure.
But I'm happy to go back to that.
I'm just using the bird navigation thing to go straight to where we were, that we're not crashing up here or through Blackberry there, and
Oh, Blackberry.
well, Blackberry further up the.
Oh, look, it's on the corner. And then
That's
you walk
right.
to
We're just over here. But you had a thicket of Himalayan honeysuckle between there and the fence, so we can go down and then back to where we came in if it's too thick. Oh, look at. So, well, yeah, we walked right past it. As I say, it certainly wasn't here when I was here last time, or when the.
We can go everywhere we like, Perry. We just can't get funding for it, that's all.
Oh, and that's why I say I'm walking you through this without just offering you these things for the record. It's important to have on record. We might be waiting forever and a day, you know, with funding, and then funding might come with all the restrictions, and things that have funding be in the past, suddenly they've locked information as their property or their paid thing under lock and key. And I've even had land trust reports I've done that have been under lock and key for up to 8 years in accountancy offices and that, not to even be released to the own landowners. And this is how, this is the control people have, or can't have that. It might exclude a metre of valuable development or pastoral grazing or anything else. And so that's so the other stories, you know, connecting with this sort of thing that's happened.
Well, what is mystifying me is why we can park our cars on this side of the road and not on that side of the road. Any ideas? Is there a significance to this big gum tree here, perchance?
Well, why have we got a big gum tree here that's been left, a bit like the gums along Hallett Bay and other places? Some of these places have got a reason or a story and been left as a marker.
Well, I think there would have been some Australians back in the day, and they went, oh, I miss our gum trees. Crikey, Bruce, why don't we plant some eucalyptus around this lake here? And the other guy would say, yeah, Bruce, I think you're right. Let's plant some eucalyptus trees. Yeah, Cobber. Go on, we might even get some koalas and if we're lucky. I'll just get some overgrowth there.
Okay. I can say it as well as read it, and I don't always read very well, easily distracted. The northern end of Kuratau River was the Kuratau Pa. It was named after the chief of that name who was killed. This was a large settlement during the time mission station established by Reverend Graves. That's the one I indicated further down to the east side of Omori there, past the beach. Where the reserve ends here, to the immediate side of the car park, which we're standing at said car park, a large gum tree marks the burial place of Te Kahu Tekura. Te Kahu Tekura?
Te Kahu Tekura.
That was his grandmother was buried there. Te Kahu Te.
So that's actually an urupa.
That's marking an urupa. And
Wow.
often in later times, people would plant a pine tree or gum tree that wasn't native, that would quickly grow and stand out to exclude a place. So quickly a Maori would, even for an older urupa, generations before, would plant a pine or a gum tree or some other tree that would grow and be distinctly set aside. There was no place, natural place in the balance there. So that's the story of this little area. This marks an urupa.
Where is it just
Did you say Kakukura?
Te Kahukura?
Te Kakukura, that's the name of
The grandmother.
Kakukuri is the name of the kaka tree, right?
Well, that was a kuri, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Kuri.
kuri.
So it's
But there's nothing there to mark that it's an urupa.
Mike, you showed me 100 urupa, and anything that's older, anything that's much older, you're lucky to get even cemeteries used up to 1950 to have a single marker in it. And so this is a problem now. And there are many urupa that have got no features or anything, and no markers to say where they are throughout the district.
And what do you think should happen there?
Well, as recently as a week ago, 1 week, 7 days ago, I was at one old family urupa on a farm with the old homestead still there, and in graves, modern graves, and still used unveilings and that. I've been to 1 or 2 myself there, and we found out now they're not registered or recorded or gone through land courts or anything to mark that they exist, and so council's got nothing. And a much older urupa to advise on, and so there's pages of requirement for modern urupa, and pages and pages of process. We've got to get those two set aside and gazetted, and possibly even surveyed to be part of the land title. So you get a surveyor in and exclude an acre or half an acre or just so many square metres, and that would then, after the survey approved by a local authority or even through land courts in Maori land, it will then be put a little square that you've got a survey ordinance number, gazetting number, for it being an urupa. So this is an ongoing thing, but many Maori have, someone else would do it, or we thought it has been done. In this case, the family last week thought it had been done, just took it for granted. It had been an urupa and registered for the year and a day. So some of these might show, some of these may not.
But again, my question is, why is this side of the road blocked off? Is it because to not block off access there, probably?
That I think is to get a clean sweep of the boats to come in and down.
Yes.
And the bigger boats. This river outlet you could have originally had before that, going back 100 or so years, the odd forest and habitation, which customary could always expect near stream and river mouths, just inland from there. Now I know another trip. This is the big reserve back to 1904 or so. The big reserve, 600-acre reserve, goes past its side right over to the next stream, and that's the one we'll visit. And it's loaded steep with history. And another visit. And that's one I suggest we go around the Puhipi Bay roadside, because what you're doing, you're driving a long way in. Right inland, way down, come back, just shy of that side. So it worked out it's just quicker and easier just to go around the other way. So this here, history, the pa, and then the values of the land and the hill. And dock, this is another big reserve they got, originally Maori land, Maori reserve. They just got transferred to them themselves for their undertaking. Who, until I flew over the meeting with Lou Wilson, who was the Maori in charge of the subdivision past there, was concerns, the concerns they had regarding some sensitive features in this reserve. So, yes, Omori, I should say, I'll leave you something here for your perusal regarding the legacy of the Graces with the sons, the missionary sons, of how they then did advise and land grabs throughout the district and the region, and without any profit advantage to Maori at all, Maori land from Maori land, and doing favours for the Crown. And so we will reconnect on this side. It's a bit like us finishing on one side, and another video we'll take on the other side, and we'll get a place of interest. But Omori for Whaitaima and mana whenua of land, the paramount chief in Whaitaima did not have 1 inch of mana of land from Omori, right through here, and over there in the distance you've got our Karangahape, and the Horonuku said he had no mana to even say or advise or recommend or put his consent on any land or leasing in that, and he sometimes had to clash with the Grace brothers, who were advising as much as they could and using his authority to get more land for the Crown. So that, in his own words, stopped at Omori. So you're dealing with different people. Now we did talk, and we'll talk another day, we can go down, as you say, quite comfortably with you, Jeffrey, and Whaitaima to Waihi, and we'll talk there another day about how the disaster of the wiping out of the village at Waihi was the missionaries uncharitably blamed it on the Maori, and they said, it's your fault, all your people have been killed through that disaster, that's God's wrath visited on you, it will happen again if you don't convert, and it's your refusal to convert that brought about that disaster. But the Maori up this end had their own story, and we'll start it off at Waihi, another take, gosh, one here, one there, and at Waihi, and the Maori here, Parikawa, TeWhare and others, said that came about, everyone wanted a natural disaster to have a spiritual or mystical cause.
Is Parikawa a woman or man?
Parikawa was a woman, okay. And her son was TeWhare.
Her son was TeWhare.
Her son, and her marriage also linked linked all the mana directly from Tia, from Tia through their marriage and lives to her husband. But there will be future talks and visits in the Western Bay, time and place and that proper. But what happened here was that the Maori, all through here, Karangahape, we've got a point named after Pukawa over there. We'll point that out at these places on the boat. We are getting back on the boat on a less blustery day than today. And what happened there was that they said no. Iwikau, the Paramount Chief's brother, who lived at Waihi, he went past the no-go zone for Tūwhareitaia. He went past here into this area and north, trying to claim land and settlement for himself, and he upset the spirit, the atua, and that's what brought about the landslip. So the missionaries had their take, and the Maori up here and further north, Western Bays, had their own explanation for the great disaster. But we'll be talking and taking this up on site there. Well, someone had, I think they've eaten their portion, but we've got something left in the car to savour and eat.
I'm down for that.
The donuts. And the yummiest donuts have you ever tried. So is this us for the day?
Well, I think we can finish. Are you comfortable finishing the day?
Yep. We've worked out places to come.
I'm just saying what people have been telling me, and
yes, but
we like to fancifise and romanticise. Otherwise, Ngāti Roirangi wouldn't have chucked a tree off the top of Tauhara that landed in the middle of the lake, because that's kilometres.
That is separate to Ngāti Roirangi the man, Ngāti Roirangi the father, who habited as an ordinary person. Tia was very much a man. But the further south he went, they gave a mythology, and all their stories, tales, traditions, even in the name of Tongariro, the Tongariro, come from Rotorua. And as people moved out, they relocated and localised, and the further away they were from the events, the more exaggerated these stories became. Go to the source, very much ordinary people on earth. The further you get, the wilder the stories go. Yes. And by the time we get to Tongariro, it's the daughters of Hawaii and the sisters bringing up everything.
So what's going to be happening 1,000
years
mythology,
from now? Mythology and those outside tradition all have their place, but don't displace all the others that get a reality of ancestors and that as actual people in their past.
Yeah, well, the way Ngāti Roirangi is made out as if he was superhuman, and he was a priest.
Not when you get to where he starts his journeys. Very much an ordinary person like you and me. The further away, and it's a generational shift, especially when it came to land and exploration, the miraculous suddenly comes in to explain everything. And how come those sisters were living and cultivating around Wairapakau, and one sister went back to Rotorua, had children and that. Other sister came here and lived in Taupo and had children. Hawaii calling up, it wasn't with those families in the whakapapa and that, they were ordinary people. But get worried of that and only grab the mythology that makes, if you're going to take that literally, you're entering in around a fantasy that doesn't work in the real age, and it's a disparity to the people, particularly when you start bringing in pre-Maori and everything else, that were never there. The first people, the only people that were here were Maori themselves. They were great voyagers, but people have been very active for years trying to prove there has to be other people and superior races, particularly white ones, that were here before Maori. And that's what they're trying to push with the Kaimanawa Wall and everywhere else. And when you speak to some of those people, they're not the least bit interested in 1,000 years of Maori occupation. No. I've spoken to these people promoting the books, the journals, the literature for all this pre-Maori stuff, and when I speak to them physically, and they're not interested in not one sentence of what Maori have done here for the last 1,000 years. Oh, we want to see the Egyptians came, or the Bronze Age people, or something else. And so that's not a genuine research or interest or anything. It's a cuckoo land bias. And unfortunately, some Maori themselves will say, oh, to think we came from Egypt, because someone from America says we have with his latest book of theory.